Steve, one of my favorite of the church's teachings is the Law of Consecration. Would you explain a little bit how you understand what the Law of Consecration is?
You bet, Kate. To me, the Law of Consecration is a timeless law of God. It's always been. It's God's way of teaching us to love Him and love each other, but it's also very specific. Early in the Restoration, February 1831, the Lord gave Joseph Smith a revelation that says that the Latter-day Saints are commanded to remember the poor, thou shalt remember the poor, and consecrate of thy properties for their support. So the idea is to share what we have so all of us have enough.
I love knowing what Edward and Lydia Partridge did in Ohio. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
In some ways, they are the pioneering family of the Law of Consecration. The Lord called them to be among the very first families to go to Zion in Missouri and to lay the foundation, he said. So Edward Partridge went out there first. He was there for the land sales. He bought all the land he could as commanded with his money and Lydia's money that they had and that they had consecrated to the church. And they were both willing. They both offered their all.
Wow.
And Lydia was right there with them the whole way.
And what did it look like for other church members to consecrate their property in Ohio?
They obeyed the three core doctrines of the Law of Consecration. They did it of their own free will, that is, they were free agents. They thought of themselves as stewards, not owners, but stewards of what the Lord had provided. And they expected to be held accountable to God for what they did with His things. Lehman Copley was an early convert to the church, and he had a large farm in northern Ohio, and he expressed a willingness to let the saints who were moving in from New York settle there for a while, and then he changed his mind. That left them in the lurch, and the Lord said, I want you to go on to Missouri. So that group of saints from New York just went as a group all the way to Missouri. The bishop met them there and started to give them a writing, as D&C 51 says it. That is, he gave them a printed document, and they would write on it that they freely consecrated to the bishop of the church all their property. But one of the most interesting things about these deeds is that in every case, what Bishop Partridge consecrated back to the saints was more than what they consecrated to the church in the first place. It was not a vow of poverty. It was a way to make sure everybody had enough. Ample is one of the words in the Revelation. Everybody should be amply supplied, it says. And there is enough and to spare, the Lord says in section 104. We often say those early saints, boy, they couldn't live it. But to me, the evidence is just the opposite. They were remarkable. They were remarkable in their faithfulness, giving up a lot, making great sacrifices.
I've always thought of the welfare program as being an important part of the Law of Consecration too. People devoting their time, working on welfare farms and devoting materials, taking their goods to Deseret Industries instead of having yard sales and keeping the profits.
Yes, that's a great example of how the principles of consecration are alive and well. They're still with us.
So I've heard some people say that the law of tithing replaced the law of consecration in church history.
That's a common saying, but it's not really very accurate. It's much more accurate to say that tithing is a part of consecration, not instead of consecration. The law of consecration was given to relieve poverty and suffering. It was given, according to section 42 of the Doctrine and Covenants, to be able to pay for the church's programs and especially to provide houses of worship, especially temples. All that as means to an end, the Revelation says, of the salvation of my people. So consecration is all about God saving His people and His people participating in that by helping each other. And tithing is part of that. It's not instead of consecration. The very revelation that gives us tithing says it's a standing law forever, not a temporary law that's going to go away someday.
So consecration is bigger than just tithing. Tithing's a part of it, but only a small part of it.
Sometimes we hear, when will the Lord require us to live the law of consecration? The answer to that is never. He never forced anyone to do it in the past, and He doesn't force anyone now, and He won't in the future. The question isn't, when will the Lord ask me to live it? It's, what am I going to do with it? It's on the books. It's right in front of our face. We covenant to keep the law. The question is simply, what are we going to do with it?
Or what are we doing?
Yeah.